For 10 years, a 597-meter skyscraper stood unfinished above a Chinese city of 14 million people. No security, no maintenance, no monitoring. Every typhoon season, the wind hit it. Every winter, the temperatures dropped. The structural steel expanded and contracted, month after month, with no engineer watching the sensors. This building exceeded China's seismic safety code before construction even finished. Then it stood exposed for a decade. This is Goldin Finance, 117. And nobody publicly knows what that did to it. To understand how a $3 billion skyscraper becomes a ghost, you have to understand who paid for it. Pan Sutong was born in Shanghai in 1963 and grew up in Hong Kong. By his early 50s, he had built Goldin Properties Holdings into one of the largest real estate developers in southern China. Forbes estimated his personal fortune at over $25 billion at its peak. Pan wanted a trophy. In 2008, he commissioned the design for the tallest building Tianjin had ever seen. 597 meters, 128 floors, a sloping glass facade that tapered as it rose, giving the structure the silhouette of a walking stick. At the top, a diamond-shaped crown, roughly 80 meters tall, a glass atrium that would house a revolving restaurant, an observation deck, and an indoor swimming pool. All three would be the highest of their kind in the world. The project was financed by Pan personally, secured against his stock portfolio and his broader real estate holdings. Tianjin was ready for it. The city's leadership wanted something that could compete with Shanghai and Hong Kong for international attention. Pan's tower would be the centerpiece of an entire development district. Luxury residences, polo fields, retail, hotels, all anchored by the tower at its center. Construction began. The mega frame rose floor by floor. By September 2015, the tower topped out at 597 meters. Workers were installing the steel skeleton of the diamond crown. The exterior glass extended past the 100th floor. Interior fit-out had begun. It was less than a year from completion. Then the Chinese stock market collapsed, and Pan Sutong's net worth fell off a cliff. Before we get to the crash, because the story of why this tower is extraordinary goes beyond who paid for it, we need to talk about what it took to build something 597 meters tall in Tianjin. Because this building didn't just push architectural boundaries, it exceeded the legal engineering limits of the country it was built in. The structural height to width ratio of Goldin Finance 117 is approximately 9.5. That number matters. China's building seismic codes set explicit limits on how slender a tower can be in a high seismic zone, and 9.5 exceeded those limits significantly. The project required a special exemption approved by China's National Expert Panel before construction could legally proceed. In other words, the building is too tall and too thin to comply with the rules designed to keep buildings standing in earthquakes. The engineers solved this, or rather, engineered around it, with a system that had never been used at this scale in China. The primary structure is a mega-braced tube surrounding a reinforced concrete core. 8 massive composite mega-columns rise from the building's corners and faces, tied together every several floors by transfer trusses and diagonal mega-braces. The central core contains composite steel plate walls, steel embedded within the concrete, to add shear resistance and ductility against lateral forces. This dual system, the outer mega-brace tube, working together with the inner reinforced core, carries the building's vertical load while simultaneously resisting the horizontal forces of earthquakes and wind. Tianjin sits in a high-intensity seismic zone on the North China Plain. The design was calibrated for a severe earthquake, with a return period of 1 in 2,475 years. For wind, the tower had to withstand typhoon category events that periodically strike the Chinese coast. A tuned damper near the top, a massive suspended weight that swings opposite to the building's natural sway, was included to reduce movement during high wind events. Taipei 101 uses the same principle. But here is the detail that structural engineers still discuss. Because the tower exceeds seismic code by such a margin, the entire design depended on every element of that dual structural system performing exactly as modeled. There was no redundancy built in via code compliance. The code was the redundancy. When the engineers exceeded it, they were betting on the precision of their own calculations, not on a regulatory safety buffer that had been proven over decades. The building got its exemption, construction proceeded, the mega frameworks, but a 597-meter tower that required a special government exemption to be built legally is sitting on a narrower engineering margin than any building you can see from the street. May 2015, the Chinese stock market begins to collapse. The Shanghai Exchange loses 1/3 of its value in less than a month. Trillions of dollars in market capitalization disappear. Pan Sutong's flagship company, Goldin Financial Holdings, is hit particularly hard. On a single day of trading in late May, the company's value collapses by billions within hours. Forbes reports Pan's personal fortune fell from over $25 billion to a fraction of that within weeks. The construction loans for the tower were secured against that portfolio. When the portfolio collapsed, the loans became impossible to service. In December 2015, 6 months after the crash began, the payments stopped. Contractors walked off the site. Workers left their tools where they stood. The cranes at the top of the building were locked in place, too expensive to remove, too complicated to leave running. The diamond crown, framed but unfinished, sat at 597 meters. Pan's situation deteriorated steadily after that. His Hong Kong projects ceased. Goldin Financial Holdings was delisted from the Hong Kong Stock Exchange in 2020. His luxury assets were auctioned. Pan himself largely disappeared from public life. The tower did not disappear. It couldn't. It was the 4th tallest building in the world. What happened next was unexpected. The building became a destination. Urban explorers from Russia and China climbed the construction crane at the top. In 2016, Russian couple Ivan Kuznetsov and Angela Nicolau reached the upper structure and posted footage that went viral across Chinese and Russian social media. Base jumpers parachuted from the upper floors. The tower acquired a reputation in exploration circles as the ultimate unsanctioned target, a nearly 600-meter structure with no security, no management, and no completion date. In 2019, Guinness World Records officially certified Goldin Finance 117 as the world's tallest unoccupied building. It would hold that title for the next 6 years. Tianjin's city government made statements about reviving the project. Investors expressed interest. Nothing happened. The building stood above the Xiqing district, looking out over the flat North China plain, exactly where it had been when the workers left. Here is the question nobody in the official communications around this building has answered. What does a decade of yin-monitored exposure do to a 597-meter tower that was already operating outside China's seismic code margins? Think about what the building experienced between December 2015 and April 2025. Tianjin sits in a high-intensity seismic zone on the North China Plain. It also sits within reach of typhoon category wind events that periodically sweep the Chinese coast. Every year of the tower's dormancy, those winds hit the structure. Not the finished structure, the partially finished one. The diamond crown was framed but not clad. The interior was an open shell. Wind loads on an incomplete building are different from wind loads on a finished one. The aerodynamic behavior changes when facade panels are missing and internal partitions do not exist yet to redistribute lateral forces. The tuned mast damper, near the top, the massive suspended weight designed to counteract sway, was installed. But a damper that is not being maintained in a building that is not being actively managed accumulates wear in its mechanical components differently than one in an occupied tower with a facilities team. Steel fatigues under repeated stress cycles. The mega brace tube and the composite core were designed to manage those cycles within specific parameters. After 10 years of typhoon seasons with no engineer reviewing the data, those parameters are theoretical, not verified. And then there's the seismic record. Tianjin experienced a magnitude 4.3 earthquake in 2020, a magnitude 3.6 in 2022, and multiple micro-seismic events throughout the dormancy period. A building that required a national expert panel exemption to exceed seismic code, and that was then left unmonitored through 5 years of seismic activity, has an unknown relationship with those events. None of this means the building is dangerous. The megaframe is robust. The structural system was over-engineered precisely because the code margins were thin. But probably fine is not the same as verified safe. As of April 2026, when the cranes returned and workers began loading the structure again for the first time in 11 years, the first thing the new engineering team had to do was assess what a decade of exposure had actually done. That assessment is not public. Goldin Finance 117 was not the only ghost tower in China. The broader property crisis set off by Evergrande's collapse left hundreds of developments frozen across dozens of cities, but it was the most visible. And in 2021, China's government issued a national ban on new buildings over 500 meters, citing among other factors the economic and structural risks of super tall projects that exceed engineering code limits. A building that spent a decade leaning into the wind above Tianjin helped end an era of Chinese super tall construction. That's the consequence nobody mentions when they talk about one billionaire's bad bet. In April 2025, the cranes came back. A consortium of state-backed investors organized by the Tianjin municipal government in coordination with China State Construction Engineering Corporation and China CITAC Group agreed to take over the tower's completion. In January 2026, Tianjin's party secretary, Chen Minner, formally endorsed what they now called the 117 project. The original design was preserved. The architect's P&T group returned. A new contractor was hired. By April 2026, workers were installing the steel structure of the diamond crown, the same crown that had been framed but unfinished since December 2015. Drone footage from the site shows welders and concrete crews active for the first time in 11 years. The skeletal diamond slowly taking shape against the Tianjin skyline. The target completion date is 2027. If it opens, Goldin Finance 117 will be the only tower in modern history to spend a decade as the world's tallest unoccupied building, and then, in the same lifetime, enter the world's occupied list. But the decision to finish it was never purely architectural. It was a signal to international bondholders, to domestic investors, to the broader Chinese property sector, which had spent several years watching developer after developer fail. The signal was, the state will not allow a 597-meter trophy tower to stand empty on a major city's skyline indefinitely, regardless of what happened to the man who built it. Pan Sutong will not own the finished building. He no longer owns much of anything. The building he staked his fortune on will outlast his fortune. The diamond crown he never saw completed will eventually light up above a city that spent 11 years watching it sit unfinished. And somewhere in the data centers where structural engineers store their monitoring records, there are files tracking the ongoing behavior of a 597-meter tower that exceeded Chinese seismic code by enough to require a national expert exemption and then sat dormant for a decade through winters and typhoon seasons, with nobody watching the sensors. What those files say about the structure after 11 years of stillness is not publicly known. The completion schedule is 2027. The building has already waited 11 years. It can wait for the answer. Drop it below. Would you walk into this building in 2027? See you in the next one.